People's Democratic Party has condemned the sealing of its national secretariat in Abuja by the Federal Capital Territory Authority. Acting National Chairman of PDP, Umar Iliya Damagum, said the party won't take the sealing of its secretariat lightly. FCTA had sealed the party secretariat over its failure to pay ground rent for 28 years. However, Damagum said the action of FCTA was an abuse of power and a direct assault on Nigeria's democracy. While addressing journalists after the party's emergency caucus meeting on Monday evening at Bauchi Governor's Lodge in Abuja, Damagum said, "They should come and arrest all of us. We will not take this lightly. This is a clear attempt to undermine democracy and we will hold them accountable." The acting chairman said the secretariat was sealed to destabilize the party. "If they are encouraging such actions, we do not take it lightly. They are attempting to undermine democracy and this is completely unacceptable. This is a clear example of the irresponsibility exhibited by this government. We condemn this act in the strongest terms. It is a reckless display of irresponsibility and we will not tolerate it," Damagum said. What do you make of this story, sir?
This is huge. As a Port Harcourt boy, you know, we're used to this kind of story. At least in the last 25, 30 years that we've been in politics, somehow just left the public space for others to thrive, to at least try their weight too. It's been our part in Port Harcourt. We sealed NLC Secretariat in Port Harcourt. We sealed opposition party secretariats in Port Harcourt. We attacked opposition parties in Port Harcourt. So this is like exporting it to Abuja. It's new. It's not something that is known to national politics, sealing secretariats. Have you heard of sealing any secretariat in Lagos? We have not been sealing secretariats. The Labour Party secretariat is still there in Lagos. You know, APC, PDP secretariat they are still there in Lagos. We don't seal secretariats in Lagos. We don't seal secretariats in Abia State, you know, where the opposition won the incumbent governor. But this is our brand of politics exported to Abuja. And of course, unfortunately, PDP is a ground victim. I hear that other secretariats were also sealed, not just the PDP secretariat, for not paying ground rent. Let's come to the real matter. The real matter is that Wike is a de facto leader of PDP today. He is playing with the APC and he is the de facto leader of, the PDP. Now, if you're sealing your own house for not paying ground rent, who should have paid the ground rent if I should ask him? President Olusegun Obasanjo, who left office over 20 years ago? Jonathan? Who? You are the leader of the party. So you should either look for a way to generate the funds to pay the ground rent as the leader of the party to sustain your party. If you really have good intentions for your party, if you're looking at 2027 delivering your party against the government that you're working for at the moment, then you should mobilize to pay the ground rent, not sealing the secretariat. And of course, who said that the ground rents have not even been paid? Are the records there? Do we have records in this country to prove that ground rents for the PDP National Secretary haven't been paid? So these are the factors, these are the issues that would need investigation, thorough investigation. It's also possible that the PDP leadership at the time, because he's claiming that in the last 28 years, ground rents haven't been paid. Yes. So PDP will need to go back to their books. Have you released the money? Who did you release the money to? Where this money is paid? Do you have receipts for the money is paid, in the last 28 years? So it's very funny. And of course, the National Party Chairman today, acting National Party Chairman Damagum, said it rightly, that this is serious intimidation and shouldn't be accepted by any standard.
All right. Very well. Now, one would say ground rent is what landlords pay to the government in Abuja, correct?
Sure.
And then for over 28 years, in these 28 years, PDP held sway for how many years? 16 years.
16 years.
Now, PDP held sway for 16 years, producing the president of the country, as it were. And in all of that, never paid ground rent. Right. And even after holding sway for 16 years.
Allegedly.
Prior to this time,
yes,
the FCTA had written to everybody
Okay.
that was owing ground rent. So
Okay.
it's not something that happened suddenly.
Okay.
Yes, they have written to different persons owing ground rent. They've written and they've written another reminder. So it's not, it wasn't sudden.
Okay.
They were expecting it.
Okay.
And if they knew that in that letter, the amount specified wasn't true, they would have raised alarm. Naturally, they would have raised alarm, called the press conference. I mean, this is a political party. They would have raised alarm. They would have gone to court. They would have challenged it, but it wouldn't have been a hidden thing. And I am sure that the FCTA would have their records, and that's why Access Bank was sealed as well.
Exactly.
Ibro Hotel was sealed as well.
Exactly.
Sealed as well. FIRS was sealed as well. So a lot of properties, even government-owned institutions, had their secretariats sealed on the account of ground rent. So if we are removing a political party and we're saying, oh, this is a witch hunt. If it's a witch hunt, why seal federal government secretariat? I mean FIRS, why seal that belonging to the banks and all of that?
Okay.
So should Demagun be talking of an assault on democracy, or should Demagun be talking about financial responsibility? If you're owing the system, if you're owing the government, you pay the government.
Okay, so I will take it from this perspective. Two angles.
All right.
Federal Capital Territory Development Agency or whatever acted like the Nigerian police. You're chasing a criminal. The criminal runs into the market and you start shooting sporadically in the market.
How do you mean?
I mean that these other agencies whose offices were shot are victim of stray bullets. Stray bullet, because you want to really prove a point that Federal Capital Development Agency or authority is actually chasing those who haven't paid their ground rent. But it's obvious that there was one target in this chase. The target is a criminal who stole and ran into the market. So you chasing the criminal inside the market and you're shooting, the bullet can go to anywhere. That's one side of it.
When you say it's stray bullet usually hits innocent passerbys or innocent.
Of course, Access Bank is.
But in this instance, you cannot say this. These agencies, these businesses, you know, that have their properties sealed are innocent in this instance. So, are they innocent?
So Federal Inland Revenue Authority or whatever they call them, it's a federal government agency, right? Abuja Federal Capital Territory is also a federal government, part of federal government governance kind of. It's almost a state status now, the way the current minister is driving it. And then you use your instrument of the state status to seal up a federal government. Are they owing or not? Well,
FIRS collects tax. FIRS prosecutes people for owing tax. And then, you know, it's a thing. This country, yeah. One thing, why FIRS is pointing at Nigerians with one finger, I mean, the remaining four has been pointing back at them all this while. So isn't that, and then, I mean, all these agencies, nobody have come out to cry foul. PDP is crying foul because one would say it was sealed by a member of the PDP. And don't you think until we come to a point in time in this country where we are able to separate our emotions, our sentiments and entitlement mentality to doing what is right, probably it will begin to make more sense. Probably if PDP was not owing, or maybe others are owing 28 years, 10 years, and probably they are just owing 6 months, and this and no form of, you know, concession was given.
As long as this
they had this coming, because they were written and they didn't do anything about it.
As long as this dispute exists today between the FCT minister and the PDP, and as long as the ambition of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu is to recontest without challenge 2027 without challenge, as long as that ambition still exists and is still living, okay, even if PDP had paid all the amount they were owing, there would still have been a reason to seal the secretariat. We have sealed party secretariats, I mean, particularly the PDP secretariat in Abuja for several reasons. Hey, secretary is fighting with secretary, we seal the party secretariat. Hey, national legal advisor does not have the right to nominate who should represent the party in River State crisis, we seal the secretariat. We have sealed the secretariat for obvious reasons. That has nothing to do with ground rent. So if today the secretariat was sealed because of ground rent, of course you have to look for a good caption that Nigerians will keep talking about.
It's the PDP.
It is the PDP.
Are they denying that they are owing ground rent?
PDP will not deny that they are owing ground rent.
Can they justify owing ground rent for 28 years?
It's just like your landlord.
Can you owe your landlord for 28 years, Dr.
I can't even owe my landlord for 1 day.
Is it not applicable to what PDP is doing?
Yes, it's the same thing. PDP was once our landlord.
So, and while they were landlord, they did not pay ground rent.
Will the landlord pay rent? Let's be fact.
So now that
I live in a compound where the landlord lives with me. Will he be paying rent inside his own compound?
But now they are tenants, are they not?
Okay, now that they are tenants, we should actually acknowledge that there was a time when they were in charge. At that time, APC, ANPP, what are the other parties? Were they paying ground rent? Now
the question would be the properties that are owing ground rent have been sealed. Allegedly. PDP is the one coming out to cry foul.
Because the target was PDP.
Because for them it was political. Correct. But then they are owing ground rent for 28 years. And for 16 years, because when you're saying they should source for money, for 16 years they were in power, they had access to funds. And even up till now, PDP still has access to funds.
They have.
Because, I mean, it's just recent, the recent mass defections. But before now, PDP had people in the National Assembly, had 11 governors, had people in state houses of assembly, and name it. So they still have, if they want to pay that this ground rent even now, they can still pay the ground rent.
To the best of my knowledge, like I said in my opening statement, Nyesomike is the de facto leader of the party. Forget what Atiku and the rest of them are doing. And you can see the coalition. Atiku, Peter Obi, and Amechi leading the coalition. And then, of course, their body and soul have just left the PDP. Party. So Wike is a de facto leader of the party. He's still a member. He has not defected. His governor has also not defected. Not even a member of the assembly in River State has defected. You know, so he should be sourcing for the funds to pay for that ground rent.
Why should he be sourcing for the funds?
I said that he's the de facto leader of the party.
Do you recall how much presidential form was in PDP?
I know.
The presidential form alone.
I know. It was 200 and something million or thereabout.
And how many presidential candidates did they have?
We had. I mean, an array of them, you know. Yeah, we had so many
National Assembly. How about National Assembly? I mean, how many members? When you're talking
that's why it's called politics. So politics is not.
The party cannot say they are broke.
No, I'm coming. The party members, those who are in leadership in the party, do you pay them salaries?
The question.
Do you pay Damagu? Is he on salary?
The question would be, why can't PDP service their debts?
Because it wasn't an issue at the time.
Well,
that's why
at the time the letter was written to them,
even if they had paid that money, like I said, they will still look for a reason to shut down the secretariat.
But not this one. So now this one is difficult to defend the PDP because they are actually defaulters.
I'm actually not defending the PDP. I'm not.
No, I mean, they are saying it's an abuse of power. How do you claim abuse of power when you are a defaulter?
Listen, these things work the same way in almost all the African countries. Once you're not in tune with the government in power, they look for a way to destroy you.
So why don't you block those channels? Because they are once in power and they understand how these things play.
Let me tell you why those channels cannot be blocked. These laws are made for the poor. The laws are not made for the rich. It's unfortunate that the PDP is at the receiving end today. Okay? When they were the ones dishing out this punishment to others, they were smiling. They never thought that a day like this will come, right? But even at that, if I were Nyesomike, if I were the president of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, I would not seal the party secretariat. of the opposition.
But you can seal every other defaulter.
I can seal every other defaulters. I will look for another way to punish the opposition without making noise. There are so many ways to punish them.
This is beating me hollow right now. Like, how there are defaulters, everybody is defaulting, and you punish every other defaulter but the opposition because you don't want to be called a bad name. How do you think now that isn't that treating PDP like a sacred cow?
You're not treating them like a sacred cow.
You're using diplomacy.
Yes, diplomacy. Wisdom is profitable to direct. It's in the Bible. So many times you just look at your enemy. Okay, let's say that your landlord's son or your landlord's daughter provoked you. Okay, they were playing ball in the compound and broke your car glass. The first thing you do is to look for cane and flog the children. No, now that's not what you do first. The first thing is to apply diplomacy, because that child you want to beat might be stronger than you, might be a cultist, might be armed. So you apply diplomacy. In our days, anybody can beat you and you say, "Uncle, sorry." These days, you can't beat any child on the streets. You understand? So you are the one looking for presidency in 2027. You are looking for human beings that will not only vote for you, but uphold the vote and sustain the vote and make sure that the votes are delivered. And even these PDP men that you're fighting today, with all the instruments of government that you have, many of them are buying into your ideas. They are moving into your party. So if you're able to get 36 out of 36, why should you fight the party? The party is gone. If at the end of the day,
PDP did not say they are gone.
No, they won't tell you they are gone. Why are they looking for coalition?
There may be miracle.
We're not living in the days of miracle anymore. You have to work out your salvation. We don't live in the days of miracle again. I mean, you sit down in the house and say manna will fall. Manna don't fall again, because in those days when God, man was close to God. You understand? So you could hear from God direct. Don't go to work today. Manna and honey will fall, and it did. But these days, manna and honey don't fall again in your houses. You have to move out and look for honey and manna.
All right. So to a large extent, for you, this was politically motivated.
Absolutely. Absolutely politically motivated. And you feel
that there should have been another way to handle this?
There should have been more diplomatic way to handle the issue, because come to think of it now. You
know that in this instance, PDP owing 28 years ground rent. They are more like grandfather in owing debts. How do you, one would say,
let me shock you. Big men don't pay tax in this country.
Well,
big men don't pay tax in this country. Remember, a few years ago, we were talking about Dangote using the tax debt that is owing to build facilities for this country. Remember, we were talking about LNG. When the Kuku Peter side was in Nimasa, he talked about how much LNG was owing to Nimasa and tax they refused to pay to River State government. I mean, they don't pay tax in this country. Big men don't pay tax in this country. Except when you start challenging the powers that be. They don't look at your direction and they say, "Oh, actually, you're owing..."
and the person will keep quiet.
You will keep quiet now. There was this property around you here, one TV station, he used it at some point, he was on the other side against a one-time governor of the state. I don't want to mention his name. And as soon as the property was sealed, allegedly the man lost his life because he went into several kinds of depression. That property is massive.
But then one would say, if you are doing business in a state or in a country, you are bound by law to pay your taxes.
Again,
in this instance,
yes,
PDP is owing 28 years ground rent.
In a capitalist state. They don't pay.
Even though they have
not only in Nigeria.
But then, isn't it time we
what's the name of this guy who was doing
they should pay the ground rent.
There's this guy.
And not cry and not hide under the cloak of opposition to get away with breaking the law. And then Damagum also is having the audaciousness coming out to say, "Oh, this is an abuse of power."
No, I don't think.
Well, he's calling it an abuse of power. You are breaking the law. You are disobeying the law. A letter was written to you. You disregarded it. You did not respond. You did not plead for time, for grace. You did not ask, okay, let us can concession. You did not negotiate for concession or for installment payments. You didn't do any of that. Because we felt nothing would happen, and now the sledgehammer is falling and you're crying foul. So, owing 28 years, personally, I don't even know how. For the life of me,
it's horrible to think about it.
I don't know how, for the life of me, I'm going to make sense of this whole thing.
Yeah, but somebody would you'll be sitting down in Abuja there with that big secretariat, uncompleted building, of course.
It's still uncompleted.
Is still not completed up till this moment? With all the monies they have made from election, buying tickets and all that, and then all the monies they make from kickback from even government of the day to silence the opposition. They make a lot of money, yet that secretariat is not complete, and for 28 years you haven't paid ground rent. It's shocking. It's shocking. I still don't believe that they haven't paid that money. It's possible, like I said, it's possible that the party released the money. You know, when they bring this money, you buy House of Reps ticket 20 million or 25 million, and then check out 777 local government divided by 3, because I think each state has between 11 and 13 House of Rep members, and then 3 House of Assembly members. So let's say 15 of them, 20 million. You know what that means? That's a lot of money. Multiplied by 36 states, including Abuja. That's a lot of money. So they must have spent that money under this ground rent, running of offices,
diesel. You're saying this based on assumption.
No, yes, it's based on assumption.
If they have paid the ground rent, why would the FCTA write to PDP to pay their, as well as other facilities and property owners to pay their ground rent?
Let me borrow this language from Port Harcourt. I'm a Port Harcourt boy. Somebody don't die that money.
Somebody don't die that. Okay.
Somebody don't die that money.
PDP now make them go investigate, find out what happened to their money.
Yes,
but when that is done, they are owing 28 years ground rent.
28 years ground rent.
That is heavy.
That's heavy.
That's very heavy.
But then I still think that diplomatically would have been able to resolve.
All right.
Not sealing the secretariat. You don't solve any problem creating more problems.
All right.
You don't solve
interesting times ahead. I'll still see how, well, we'll see how this pans out.